All right, guys, if you want to make your chords sound darker, it's not about a plugin or some magic technique. It's actually about a simple music theory concept that you can apply right to your music making. So for example, this works great on minor chords. Instead of playing your minor chord like this, which is 0, 3, 7 in chord code talk, if you don't know what chord codes are, basically wherever you start is 0. You count up your keyboard using semitones, or note by note, I should say. So this is 0, and you're going to count up your keyboard. So the chord code is 0, 3, 7. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3. It's your minor third, 4, 5, 6, 7. Play all those notes together, 0, 3, and 7, and you get the minor triad. Now most people play their chords like this. That can be cool to go from a minor chord to a suspended second chord, but we're missing the density to the sound. So a simple way to add a vibe to this is take your root note and add it into the bass 2 octaves below. So you have D and then another one down here. That simple technique will make your chord sound way darker because now they have a density in the lower frequencies. Now from this chord, we can move to what's called the suspended second chord, which is taking the middle note F and moving down 1. So it's 0, 2, 7 is the chord code now. Now, a way you can play this melodically is play it in the arpeggio style. So now what I'm doing to slow it down is I'm just playing from the bottom, 1, 2, 3. So that's just the octave. And then we're going up to the chord itself. Okay, so we're finishing the triad. Then we're coming back downwards, so it goes up. And here's the cool part is we're going to the second, it's called, the suspended second, which is the next chord. This color tone right here, we're adding what's called the ninth technically, so it makes it very musical sounding. So I'm going, and then I'm starting back at the bottom of the triad. Okay, so just play that really fast. It adds that like old era thing, like a castle type of sound. So this technique works great for minor chords, not so much for major chords because of the way we colorize major chords. It's not usually with the second. We usually use things like the 11th, which is the 4th. I'm trying not to bore you guys to tears, but so let's just transpose this down to A. Now let's try some contrast here. So you guys can't see it, but on my screen I'm playing 2 bass notes in the left hand. Let's go up to a higher octave. A little trickier with the right hand because you could actually distinctly hear those notes. Now another dark technique is to resolve on a chord that isn't expected. So let's do D minor in this case. And then what I'm going to do is simply move my thumb and my middle finger down to the next note in the scale, in this case, which is going to be C and E. But we're going to keep the A at the top here. And we're going to move our left hand to the next bass note. Now we're going to create a suspended chord, which is the root note, the second and the 5th, 0, 2, 7. And then we're going to go to the next note down in the scale. So it goes. So what the key is that we're moving the left hand down 1 note in the scale each time. But we're keeping A the same. Okay, so this creates a unique chord because we're adding a suspended second over B flat. So it creates this really big chord. Technically it's a major 7, but so that adds that darkness because the suspended chord that we're using here. Minor triad. We're playing a minor with a first inversion. I'm not going to bore you guys to tears because that's not how I'm thinking about it. I'm just moving my thumb and my middle finger to the next note down in the scale. But technically this is a first inversion of A. Then we're playing the suspended chord over B flat, which is the next scale degree down in the D minor scale. So D minor would be this. Okay, so we're leaving out B in that case. So I'm playing D as the tonic, down to the 7th, down to the 6th, using that suspended chord. And then now we're gonna move that final chord to a minor chord to resolve it. You could use that same technique, just moving your thumb and middle finger down to the next note in the scale. That wasn't in the key, but that is, I guess what I'm trying to show you guys is you're not thinking about a bunch of chords. You're just saying, how do I move the fingers that I'm using in the chord existing? So I'm saying, okay, I have my thumb on this note, F in the middle finger, and then A here. So how do I move my fingers around without doing too much? So I'm gonna move these two fingers, my thumb and my middle finger, down to the next scale degree without even doing too much. I'm barely moving my hand, but it sounds like we're making a big change. And then we're going down to the next scale degree, but we're picking a different triad to go on top. And that's what creates the sound. Now, if I did a D minor chord to more of a smooth major chord, this just sounds a little more exotic to me. But we could also cycle between these. So let's add this in. That could be your fourth chord. Then we can resolve. And then again, going down to taking my middle finger and thumb, going down to the next note in the scale. Now this chord I don't like because it's a straight diminished chord. So in that case, to avoid the diminished, I'm using a suspended approach. So I guess what I'm trying to say is the left hand is playing the bass note, and the right hand is figuring out a triad that goes over top. That's the practice you guys want to try at home. Okay, and you could do that infinitely. That's how I learned about this chord progression here. I guess the challenge that I'm trying to pose to you guys, the challenge is how to harmonize each note. If you were to go up chromatically, meaning note by note, how would you harmonize? So here's an example where the bass note is going to go up one note at a time, and I'm going to harmonize with my right hand. Okay, so the technique, I took that bass, went half steps. So a practice that you guys again can do at home is simply figure out, okay, if I do this in the bass, what triad can the right hand play that harmonizes this? Adding A minor over the top would make the bass note the root note. That would make that F, and then AC would make that an F major 7th chord. Nextly, I'm changing this triad, ACE, which is a minor triad, to a suspended, what's the technical name here? We're just gonna flatten the 5 basically down 2 notes. So technically it's a dominant chord, but I'm not thinking of it that way. I'm just moving the top note down. Then back to the triad. Switching the tension chords, now it's a suspended 2nd chord. Now I'm changing the entire chord up top to G major. And then again, using that suspended 2nd technique for the passing notes. And then here, I just found this chord magically one day. Okay, so that's a technique you guys can employ. So I guess the lessons for today is really try, when you guys are making chords, try to not think about it as this big chord from here to here. Just think about it as you're playing a bass note and you're playing a triad. And when you simplify it as a 3-note chord, it becomes a little bit easier. So now you're making these simple movements where you're getting a big change. Okay, and then you could change up chord progressions that way. I like to move downward, but you guys also saw the gospel-y way is to go upward chromatically, not necessarily in the scale. So try that out. I don't know what this video will be titled, I guess how to create more exotic how to create more exotic chord progressions, specifically in the dark category. So that's my techniques. If you guys want to learn more, go to busyworksbeats.com/music theory. Peace out, guys.